I've always been inspired by the Motown ladies, specifically because their music impacted a generation and helped lead a revolution.
He's had it all done.
You cannot. I refuse you to insult Michael. He's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
I love him,
Yeah.
and I don't like people making fun.
At 81, Diana Ross reflects on her relationship with Michael Jackson. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into one of music's most fascinating untold stories, a secret romance that spanned decades, influenced countless hit songs, and remained hidden behind the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. We're talking about the profound, complex, and ultimately heartbreaking love story between two of the most iconic figures in entertainment history, Michael Jackson and Diana Ross. What you're about to discover will completely change how you view both of these legendary performers. From childhood encounters that sparked a lifelong connection, to hidden messages embedded in chart-topping hits, to a final gesture of love that would echo through eternity, this story has everything. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more untold celebrity stories. Turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into the secrets behind your favorite stars. But here's what makes this story truly extraordinary. It's not just about unrequited love. It's about how one relationship shaped the King of Pop's entire artistic identity, influenced his most famous performances, and led to decisions that would affect his children long after he was gone. Stay tuned, because what's coming next is even more surprising than you could imagine. The first spark. When destiny called in 1969. Picture this. It's 1969, and an 11-year-old Michael Jackson steps into Berry Gordy's office at Motown Records. Standing there, radiant and commanding attention, is Diana Ross, already a superstar at 25, lead singer of the Supremes, and quite possibly the most glamorous woman in America. But here's what you didn't know. This wasn't just a business meeting. This was the moment that would define both of their lives forever. Michael later described this first encounter as being struck by lightning. Diana wasn't just beautiful. She possessed an otherworldly presence that captivated everyone around her. For young Michael, this wasn't just meeting a celebrity. This was meeting his muse, his inspiration, and unknowingly, the woman who would hold his heart for the rest of his life. Have you ever met someone and instantly felt like your entire world shifted? That's exactly what happened to Michael in that moment. Diana, for her part, was immediately drawn to this precocious child with an old soul and a voice that seemed to channel pure emotion. She saw something special in him, not just talent, but a kindred spirit. What makes this even more fascinating is how Diana immediately took Michael under her wing. She didn't just introduce him around Motown, she became his protector, his guide, and his first taste of what unconditional love felt like. Berry Gordy even publicly announced that Diana had discovered the Jackson 5, though this wasn't entirely accurate. But Diana didn't correct him. Why? Because she understood the power of narrative, and she wanted to be forever linked with Michael's success story. But wait, there's something even deeper happening here that most people never realized. The mentorship that became something more. As Michael grew from child star to teenager, something profound was developing between him and Diana. Their relationship transcended the typical mentor-student dynamic. Diana would invite Michael to her home, where they'd spend hours talking about music, performance, and life. These weren't formal lessons. They were intimate conversations between two souls who understood each other on a level that seemed almost supernatural. Michael absorbed everything about Diana, her grace, her stage presence, her ability to connect with an audience through pure emotion. Watch any Michael Jackson performance, and you'll see Diana's influence everywhere. The way he moved his hands, his connection with the audience, even his signature head tilts. Diana wasn't just teaching him to perform, she was teaching him to channel his very essence through his art. This is where it gets interesting. As Michael entered his late teens, those around them began to notice something changing. The way they looked at each other during recording sessions, the private jokes, the way Diana's face would light up whenever Michael walked into a room. Studio musicians and Motown insiders started whispering about a connection that seemed to go far beyond professional mentorship. Katherine Jackson, Michael's mother, later revealed in private conversations that she was concerned about the intensity of Michael's feelings for Diana. She could see her son was falling deeply in love, but Diana was nearly 15 years older and already establishing herself as one of the most sought-after women in entertainment. Hang tight, because what happened next would set the stage for decades of hidden longing. The Wiz. When fantasy became reality. 1978 brought an opportunity that seemed like fate itself was intervening. Both Michael and Diana were cast in The Wiz, the all-black adaptation of The Wizard of Oz. Diana would play Dorothy, and Michael would portray the Scarecrow. For months, they would work together every single day, bringing a beloved story to life while their own real-life romance played out behind the scenes. Cast and crew members from The Wiz later revealed that Michael and Diana's chemistry was electric. Between takes, they would disappear together, talking for hours about everything and nothing. Diana helped Michael navigate his transformation from child performer to adult artist, while Michael showed Diana a vulnerability and depth that few people ever got to see. But here's what you didn't know. During filming, their relationship deepened into something that those closest to them described as profound love. They weren't just playing characters who were connected by destiny. They were two people who had found their soulmate in each other. Sidney Lumet, the film's director, later mentioned in interviews how he had to sometimes redirect their scenes because their real emotions were so powerful that they overwhelmed the fictional story they were supposed to be telling. When Dorothy and the Scarecrow shared tender moments on screen, audiences were witnessing genuine affection between two people who had fallen deeply in love. The question everyone around them was asking, what would happen when filming ended? Stay tuned, because Michael's next move would shock everyone. The public declaration that changed everything. 1982. Picture the scene. Michael Jackson, now the biggest solo star on the planet thanks to Thriller, is being interviewed on television. The interviewer asks him about love, about relationships, about his personal life, and then, in a moment of pure vulnerability, Michael does something that no one expected. He looks directly into the camera and says, "I love Diana Ross." Not as a mentor, not as a friend. He declares his love for her in front of millions of viewers, his voice trembling with emotion, his eyes filled with a pain that anyone watching could recognize as heartbreak. What do you think went through Diana's mind when she saw this? The woman who had been his guide, his inspiration, his secret love, suddenly had their private feelings broadcast to the entire world. But here's the tragic part. By this time, Diana was already married to Robert Ellis Silberstein and later to Arne Ness Jr. In interviews years later, people close to both stars revealed that Michael's public declaration wasn't spontaneous. He had been carrying this love for over a decade, and the success of Thriller had given him the confidence to finally speak his truth. But it was too late. Diana's life had moved in a different direction, and Michael's heart was breaking in public. But wait, this is where the story takes an even more poignant turn. The songs that told their secret story. Here's something that will completely change how you listen to Michael Jackson's music. Many of his most famous songs were actually love letters to Diana Ross. Let's break this down, because the hidden messages are everywhere once you know what to look for. Dirty Diana, released in 1988, wasn't about a groupie or a fan. Listen to the lyrics again with this knowledge. Michael is singing about a woman who captivates him completely, someone he can't resist despite knowing their relationship is complicated. The Diana in the title isn't coincidental, it's hidden in plain sight. Remember the time takes on an entirely different meaning when you realize Michael is literally asking Diana to remember their time together during The Wiz, their private conversations, the moments when they felt like the only two people in the world. But here's the most heartbreaking part. She's out of my life. When Michael recorded this song, he reportedly broke down crying in the studio and couldn't finish it in one take. Quincy Jones kept that emotional, broken moment in the final version. Michael wasn't just singing about lost love, he was mourning the reality that Diana, his first love, his inspiration, would never be his. Have you ever listened to a song and felt like the artist was speaking directly to your heart? That's because the greatest artists channel their deepest emotions into their music, and Michael's love for Diana was the source of some of his most powerful performances. What's coming next will reveal just how deep their connection really went. The secret relationship that Hollywood tried to hide. Here's where this story gets truly fascinating. According to multiple sources close to both stars, Michael and Diana did have a secret romantic relationship that lasted for several years during the late 70s and early 80s. Industry insiders knew, their families suspected, but the public never got the full story. Why the secrecy? Diana was navigating her career transition from the Supremes to solo stardom, and a relationship with someone significantly younger, even someone as talented as Michael, could have damaged her carefully crafted image. Michael, meanwhile, was dealing with his own transformation from child star to adult performer, and his handlers worried that a public relationship might affect his crossover appeal. Leaked recordings from the early 80s reveal phone conversations between Michael and Diana that are heartbreakingly intimate. In one call, Michael Michael tells Diana, "You're the only person who really understands me. When I'm with you, I can just be myself." Diana responds, "You have no idea how special you are, Michael. The world is going to see what I've always seen in you." But here's what makes this even more tragic. Their secret relationship ended not because they stopped loving each other, but because the pressures of their careers and the expectations of those around them made it impossible to continue. Hang tight, because what happened next would haunt Michael for the rest of his life. When Diana chose security over love, the moment that broke Michael's heart came in 1985 when Diana married Norwegian shipping magnate Arne Nice Jr. People close to Michael described him as devastated. Here was the woman who had shaped his entire artistic identity, who understood him better than anyone else, choosing security and stability over the passionate but complicated love they shared. Diana's decision wasn't made lightly. Friends revealed years later that she agonized over it for months. She loved Michael deeply, but she was also pragmatic about the challenges they would face. The age difference, the media scrutiny, the career implications, it all seemed insurmountable. Michael's response was to throw himself even deeper into his work, but those close to him noticed a change. The playful, optimistic young man became more withdrawn, more isolated. He began building Neverland Ranch around this time, a place where he could create his own world, far from the pain of reality. Have you ever had to choose between following your heart and doing what seemed practical? Diana's choice would echo through both of their lives for decades to come. But wait, Michael's love for Diana was about to manifest in the most unexpected way. The will that revealed everything. Here's something that shocked the entire entertainment industry when it was revealed. In Michael Jackson's will, he named Diana Ross as the guardian of his children if something happened to his mother, Catherine. Not Janet Jackson, his beloved sister. Not any of his brothers. Diana Ross, the woman who had captured his heart over 40 years earlier. This wasn't a casual decision. Michael's lawyers revealed that he had been specific about this choice, stating that Diana understood him better than anyone else and would provide his children with the love, guidance, and protection they would need. Think about this for a moment. What does it say about someone when you trust them with the most precious thing in your life? Michael's decision to name Diana as his children's potential guardian was perhaps the most profound declaration of love and trust he ever made. When Diana learned about this provision in Michael's will, she was reportedly moved to tears. In interviews afterward, she spoke about feeling honored but also heartbroken that Michael had carried his feelings for her until the very end. This is where it gets even more emotional. The influence that shaped the king of pop. Let's talk about something that music historians are only now beginning to fully understand. Diana Ross didn't just influence Michael Jackson's career. She fundamentally shaped who he became as an artist and as a person. Every signature move, every emotional connection with his audience, every moment of vulnerability in his performances can be traced back to lessons he learned from Diana. Watch footage of Diana performing in the late 60s and early 70s, then watch Michael's performances from the 80s onwards. The hand gestures are nearly identical. The way they both could convey deep emotion through the smallest facial expressions. The ability to make every person in a stadium of 50,000 feel like they were singing directly to them. Michael learned all of this from Diana, but it went deeper than performance technique. Diana taught Michael that true artistry comes from vulnerability, from being willing to share your deepest emotions with the world. This is why Michael's music resonates so powerfully with people decades after it was recorded. He learned from Diana how to channel genuine feeling into his art. When you listen to Michael Jackson's music, which songs make you feel the most emotion? Chances are, those are the songs where Diana's influence is strongest, where Michael's love for her comes through most clearly. What's coming next will show you just how this love story continued even after Michael's death. Diana's final tribute, love that transcends death. When Michael Jackson died on June 25, 2009, Diana Ross was performing in New York. The news reached her backstage, and witnesses described her reaction as complete devastation. She had lost not just a friend or a protege, but the great love of her life. At Michael's memorial service, Diana was conspicuously absent from the main proceedings, leading to speculation and criticism. But here's what really happened. Diana was so overwhelmed with grief that she couldn't handle the public spectacle. Instead, she held her own private memorial, where she could mourn the man she loved without cameras and crowds. In the years since Michael's death, Diana has spoken more openly about their relationship. In a 2012 interview, she said, He was special. There was a connection between us that I've never had with anyone else. He saw me, really saw me, in a way that very few people ever have. She also revealed that she still talks to Michael, that she feels his presence when she performs, and that she tries to honor his memory by continuing to create music with the same emotional honesty he learned from her all those years ago. Have you ever lost someone whose influence on your life was so profound that you still feel their presence years later? That's what Diana experiences with Michael, a connection that death couldn't break. But there's still more to this story. The hidden messages in Michael's final years. In Michael's later years, those close to him reported that he still spoke about Diana regularly. During the preparation for his This Is It tour, Michael mentioned wanting to invite Diana to the concerts, hoping she would see how far he had come, how he had taken everything she taught him and created something magnificent. Music producers who worked with Michael in his final decade revealed that he would sometimes pause during recording sessions and say things like, "Diana would love this," or "I wonder what Diana would think of this arrangement." Even as the king of pop, even with all his success and accolades, he still sought the approval of the woman who had first believed in him. There's also compelling evidence that Michael's children knew about his feelings for Diana. Paris Jackson has mentioned in interviews that her father spoke about Diana with a special warmth, describing her as someone who had changed his life. Prince Jackson has said that his father's eyes would light up whenever Diana's music came on the radio. This makes you wonder, how different might their story have been if circumstances had been different? If Diana had been closer to Michael's age, if the entertainment industry had been more accepting of unconventional relationships, if they had met at a different time in their lives. Stay tuned, because we're about to explore what this story means for music history. The legacy of a love that changed music forever. Here's something that musicologists and cultural historians are still trying to fully understand. The relationship between Michael Jackson and Diana Ross fundamentally changed popular music, not just through the direct influence Diana had on Michael's artistry, but through the emotional authenticity that their love story brought to his work. Think about it. Some of the most beloved songs in popular music history were born from Michael's feelings for Diana. The vulnerability in She's Out of My Life, the passion in Remember the Time, the complex emotions in Dirty Diana. These songs connected with millions of people because they came from a place of genuine, deep feeling. Diana's influence on Michael also changed how male performers express emotion. Before Michael, male pop stars were expected to be either tough and rebellious or smooth and unthroughable. Michael, channeling what he learned from Diana, showed that men could be vulnerable, could wear their hearts on their sleeves, could cry during performances, and still be considered strong. This emotional openness paved the way for artists like Prince, George Michael, and countless others who weren't afraid to explore the full range of human emotion in their music. Which artists today do you think show that same kind of emotional vulnerability in their music? The lineage can often be traced back to what Michael learned from Diana about authentic artistic expression. But here's what might be the most important part of this story: what their story teaches us about love and art. The love story between Michael Jackson and Diana Ross is ultimately about more than two celebrities who couldn't be together. It's about how love, even unrequited love, can become the foundation for incredible art. It's about how the people who shape us in our youth continue to influence us throughout our lives. And it's about how some connections are so deep that they transcend time, circumstance, and even death. Michael's love for Diana taught him that vulnerability could be strength, that showing your emotions could create deeper connections with audiences, and that true artistry comes from genuine feeling rather than technical perfection. These lessons didn't just make him a better performer, they made him more human. Diana's love for Michael, even though she couldn't pursue it in the way he wanted, gave her a deeper understanding of mentorship, of the responsibility that comes with influence, and of how the connections we make can ripple through generations. Their story also raises profound questions about timing, choice, and the paths we take in life. How many of us have experienced connections that felt destined but were complicated by circumstances beyond our control? What's coming next might be the most surprising part of this entire story. The children who carry their legacy forward. Here's something beautiful and bittersweet. Michael Jackson's children are now adults, and they carry forward not just his legacy, but the influence that Diana Ross had on their father. Paris Jackson's artistic sensibilities, her emotional openness in her music, her willingness to be vulnerable. These all echo the lessons Michael learned from Diana decades ago. Prince Jackson has spoken about wanting to understand his father's artistic process, and part of that understanding involves recognizing Diana's role in shaping Michael's approach to performance and emotional expression. Even more touching, Diana Ross has maintained a relationship with Michael's children, serving as a sort of honorary grandmother figure. She sees Michael in their faces, their gestures, their artistic inclinations, and she continues to offer guidance just as she did for their father all those years ago. This makes you think about the ways love and influence pass down through generations, doesn't it? The connection between Michael and Diana didn't end with their deaths. It continues through the young artists who carry their combined legacy forward. But there's still one more layer to this story that will amaze you. The music industry's best-kept secret. Here's something that insiders in the music industry have known for decades but rarely discuss publicly. The relationship between Michael Jackson and Diana Ross influenced countless other artists and industry relationships. Producers, songwriters, and performers who worked with both of them understood that they were witnessing something special, a creative and emotional connection that elevated everyone around them. Quincy Jones has hinted in interviews that some of Michael's best vocal performances came when he was channeling his feelings for Diana. Berry Gordy acknowledged that Diana's belief in Michael helped convince him to invest in the young performer's solo career. Motown executives knew that the magic they captured in recording sessions often came from the emotional authenticity that Michael had learned to access through his relationship with Diana. This influence extends beyond just these two artists. The template they created, of deep emotional connection translating into transcendent art, became a model for countless other musical relationships and collaborations. Think about the musical collaborations that have moved you most deeply. Often there's a personal connection between the artist that elevates their work beyond what either could achieve alone. We're approaching the end of our story, but there's one final revelation that ties everything together. The final truth, love is the ultimate creative force. As we reach the conclusion of this remarkable story, here's what becomes clear. The relationship between Michael Jackson and Diana Ross proves that love, in all its forms, is the ultimate creative force. Their connection produced not just individual artistic achievements, but a new template for how emotional authenticity could transform popular culture. Michael's love for Diana was never fully requited in the traditional sense, but it was returned through mentorship, through artistic collaboration, through a deep friendship that lasted until his death, and through the trust he placed in her regarding his children's future. Diana's love for Michael evolved from maternal protection to artistic partnership to profound friendship, and ultimately to a recognition that their connection had created something larger than either of them could have achieved alone. This raises a beautiful question. What if the greatest love stories aren't always about possession or conventional relationships? What if they're about how we influence each other, how we help each other become our best selves, and how we create beauty together that outlasts our individual lives? The music, the performances, the emotional honesty that both Michael and Diana brought to their art. All of this emerged from a love that couldn't fit into conventional categories, but was no less real or powerful for that complexity. Where we are now, a love story that lives forever. Today, decades after their first meeting and years after Michael's death, the love story between Michael Jackson and Diana Ross continues to unfold. Diana still performs, and in every show, there are moments where Michael's influence is visible. In her gestures, in her emotional connection with the audience, in her willingness to be vulnerable on stage. Michael's music continues to touch new generations of listeners, and those who understand the story behind songs like She's Out of My Life and Remember the Time hear them differently, not just as pop songs, but as chapters in one of music history's greatest love stories. The children Michael entrusted to Diana's care are creating their own art, carrying forward the legacy of emotional honesty and creative fearlessness that their father learned from the woman who first showed him that vulnerability could be strength. And perhaps most importantly, their story continues to inspire artists today who understand that the greatest music comes not from technical perfection, but from genuine feeling. Every time a performer chooses vulnerability over safety, every time an artist channels personal emotion into universal art, they're following the path that Michael and Diana created together. So there you have it. The hidden love story that changed music history, a story of mentorship that became deep affection, of timing that was never quite right, of love that transcended conventional boundaries, and of artistic legacy that continues to influence performers decades later. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed diving deep into this incredible story. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our explorations into the untold stories behind your favorite artists. Thank you for being part of our community. What kind of videos would you like us to make next? Let us know in the comments. See you on the next video.